Okay, so these ones are a little tricky, but only because you kind of psych yourself out by looking at them. You look at it and you're like, I'm used to seeing things that just have X or things that just have A or whatever. And you're like, what the hell? Now I've got A and B? This is crazy. But it's really not, because look at this. We've got things in brackets to the power of 2, things in the brackets to the power of 1, and you can't see them, but things in brackets to the power of 0. Because if you remember correctly, anything to the power of 0 is just 1. Okay? So this is what all of your trinomials look like. So, what if we just imagine this as 10x squared minus 22x plus 4? Now that looks like something you're familiar with. And basically when you're factoring, it works out the same way, and then we'll just substitute a plus b back in for x at the end. And it's the same thing for the other example that you sent me, Emily. So it's going to work out the same way for that one. They're basically the same type of question. So you just use the same technique. Is just substitute x or whatever variable you want to use. You could use k or l or fish. To just put that in instead of that and then put it in at the end. So let's do this. It's not necessary, but it's always handy to look for stuff you can factor out. I see we've got 10, 22, 4. Those are all divisible by 2. So I'm going to pull it out at 2. And I've got 5x squared minus 11x plus 2. Now we use decomposition. So to do decomposition, which is really annoying, and later you're just going to learn a thing or use a calculator or whatever, so you don't really have to do it that much. You want to see, okay, well it's got to multiply to, or it's got to, yeah, multiply to 10 and add to negative 11. Well, the only things that do that would be negative 1 times negative 10. Because if we multiply those together, what do you get? 10. If you add them together, what do you get? Negative 11. Okay, sorry, I'm excited. That's all you do. So you take that, and so we go to, don't forget our brackets and stuff, 5x squared. Now use the one that makes the most sense. I know 5 and 10 work nicely with each other, so I'm going to use negative 10 here. You could use either or, but just try to use the ones that are handy. And I'm going to use negative 1x, kind of split these up by a little invisible barrier each side, because you're going to do them separately. Plus 2. Okay. Now you want to find common denominators, or greatest common factors, something like that. And then, so this one, 5 and x are both common, so I'm going to pull out 5x. Now I'm left with x minus 2. Yeah. And then on our other side of our little barrier, we've got negative 1x plus 2. I'm just going to pull out a negative 1, because then that's going to leave me with the same thing, and these have to match when you're doing decomposition. Now I'm sure you're quite confident with decomposition, so this is kind of just an exercise for you. So 2, and then now we know this can combine with this. This is the same, so it's going to be 5x minus 1 times x minus 2. And our last step, and I've kind of run out of room here, so I'm going to erase some of this and scooch up to the top. Wrong cursor. Our last step up here is to just put a and b back in there. So it's going to be 2 times 5 a plus b minus 1 times a plus b. There's a lot of brackets. It's kind of gross. Minus 2. Voila. Sorry, that looks really bad. But you can understand that all that's going on there is just putting things in. And I think since it's factored, they'd want to leave it as a plus b, but I don't know. You could always kind of fiddle things around, and you could always change this to 2 times 5a plus 5b minus 1. Of course, this is kind of expanding again when they asked you to factor, but a plus b minus 2, right? Obviously, that stuff's not all necessary or anything, but basically this is where you should be able to get to. Is you're just taking a plus b and substituting x in for it instead, doing your decomposition as you usually would, and then putting a plus b back in at the end. And that makes it way easier than trying to do it any other way.